All right, if you turn your papers over, I've got 16 minutes left. I want to talk about some herbal recipes. In case you don't know what I mean by herbal recipes, there must be a way to turn this off. If I can't figure it out, I'll give it to my wife. It's all yours. I can't figure it out. All right. I want to go over herbal recipes to help you understand it a little bit. Most of you here, all but two of us, are women. So you're probably used to cooking. Let's say a cake or a pie. You have various ingredients there. Flour, baking soda, sugar. Notice I have to read that. And a few other different ingredients. Any one of them by themselves, pretty bland. Properly mixed together, almost impossible to stay away from. It makes delicious cakes and pies. That is a recipe. It's taking several single ingredients and mixing them together according to a certain pattern or recipe, and that's what I'm going to talk to you about now. We've just talked about, you look on the paper that you have in front of you. I don't have one here, but I got it memorized, don't worry. You got the first one there. It's got a blank line. You're going to fill in the blank lines. The name of it is called joint support. Now, if you look to what's to the right of that blank line, you'll see what is in the recipe. You'll see that it mentions a number of different things. We just talked about yucca. Excellent for cortisone. What do you get with arthritis? A lot of pain. Okay, yucca's in there. That works on the pain. It's got the cortisone. Another ingredient is alfalfa. That's what we started with. Well, alfalfa alkalizes the body. Alfalfa also works on pain. It's also a tremendous nutritive. You drop down a little bit further. I'm going to digress for a moment because it's not in, I didn't talk about it, but white willow bark. White willow bark is what you make or made aspirin from. The reason is white willow bark and wild lettuce, these products have always been used for pain. So they studied them back in the late 1800s, and they found an active ingredient that was predominant in all of these plants. It's called acetylsalicylic acid. Once they had figured that out, they put it to use in various universities, and they tried to duplicate the molecular structure of the ingredient that seemed to be working for pain relief. The acetylsalicylic acid. I love that word now that I can say it. Took me a long time to say it. But anyway, they finally, by going through a very long, tedious deal, found out with biochemistry and whatever they do, they duplicated the molecular structure that was found in these plants that were used for pain. They called it aspirin. All right? Now they had to see, did it work? They took that and they gave it to people with pain, and guess what? It worked beautifully. It didn't have any smell. It didn't have any taste. It was good for long storage, and the drug industry was born starting with aspirin. But you know what happened about 15 years later? Huh? It could cause ulcers. You start it, it's a nice long page now. It can thin your blood, cause internal bleeding, give you a stomach ulcer, and the list goes on. Well, think about it. Your stomach is skin. What happens when you put acid in skin? It burns a hole. That's what an ulcer is. It burns a hole. So now you take the aspirin, it took care of the pain in your shoulder, but it bore a hole in your stomach. But that's not a problem. When that started to happen, now all you had to do is develop something to heal the hole. Another drug. But that caused, and you know where I'm going. And so now there's this whole great big long list of what it can cause. One of the worst ones that I thought was really funny is that it thinned the blood. Instead of trying to counteract that one, they put out a big advertising, aspirin will thin your blood. Aspirin will bring down your blood pressure. They took a bad situation and made it positive. Not too smart, really, but I won't get into this. Go ahead.
I have a question about the arthritis. When you talk about arthritis, are you talking about all the different types of arthritis? For
Yes.
example, rheumatoid?
All of them. Now, you do work a little bit differently with rheumatoid than you would with the others. It's very, very difficult. But they are all the same. They are all brought on by an overacid system, by poor nutrition, and an autoimmune disorder. So your joint support, the cheapest of all of our arthritic formulas, works on all of them, and you're seeing how. We just covered the yucca, the alfalfa, and now the white willow bark. If you continued on down there, you'll see that it talked about the capsicum. That helped the circulation. That gets everything, all the nutrients to go where it's supposed to go.
So the joint support would assist with rheumatoid arthritis?
Yes. Talk to me about it later. You'd need more than that. But that is a very good assist. As you can see, this recipe, and that's what I'm having you write in, it's called joint support.
Okay.
The next one,
One is joint support.
number one, the first one, yes. The next one down, you'll see the thing that's called marshmallow and pepsin. Now you might want to just write to the far right of that, herbal antacid. That's really what it is. But we can't call it an antacid, but you can write it in, because you at least have the freedom to write. And I have the freedom to speak. I just can't call it an herbal antacid. All right, so that one, by the way, one of the top cancer people in the country said if he had to have one herbal formula to work with, that would be his first choice. I wouldn't always agree with him, but that was one person, a doctor, MD, that worked using natural things. So that one, the name is marshmallow and pepsin. The next one, you like that, huh?
Bill, what was the old name for that? I forgot.
I think it was comfrey pepsin, but I'd have to look it up.
So 2 is for your stomach.
That is called marshmallow and pepsin, and you see everything that it works for on that line.
But on number 2.
Yeah, number 2.
What?
Comfrey, marshmallow and pepsin.
No, I'm sorry. Number 1 is joint support.
Right.
Number 2.
It's marshmallow and pepsin. All right.
Explanation and the name are one and the same. The name of the ingredient
Thank you.
and the explanation are one and the same.
Oh, I see.
Thank you, young lady. All right. The third one, you'll notice that one, it's now called Nerve 8. It's because there are 8 different nervines in it. If you really want to get away with something, I used to call that one an herbal tranquilizer, because it works like any tranquilizer from the medical profession, but it doesn't leave you drowsy. So, and all 8 of the ingredients in there are nervines, which means it will either excite or relax the nervous system that's out of balance. And that's what causes the pain, or that product. Yes?
Is that one of the products in the pack, the monthly, the packs?
Yes, the nervous system pack, that is in there, along with the Daptomax and Nutricom. Number 4, fourth one down, is just 3 letters, F, C, and S. And that stands for a female corrective support. I have had women, thinking of 2 from up in New Hampshire in particular, they say they'll kill me if I run out of it, because it works so well for all the different types of female complaints. I'm hoping she's exaggerating, but that's how much they rely on that particular product.
What was the C stand for?
Corrective.
Okay, correct.
All right. Number 5 is called Energy V. That's ENERG-V. I'd like to just talk for a moment on that one,
That's
'cause-
what you say.
Energy V. Because that one is, it covers almost all the single herbs I just talked about. So I'll cover some of that for you. You can tell that it's for energy by the name. That was easy. But now look what it's got. Siberian ginseng. We talked about stress. One of the things I didn't talk about, I didn't have time, they worked with the ginseng and the capsicum, and they fed them to the rats, and they had a maze with water and stuff that they had to run over, and they put the food at the other end. Everything was the same, but the difference was they added some capsicum and ginseng to one of the food supplies. All of the rats with the additional capsicum and ginseng always made it to the other side. Others gave up halfway. They lacked the energy. So that was one of the sideline tests on that. All right. Okay, it's also an adaptogenic, the ginseng. That's in there. So it works from a number of them. Bee pollen, we did not talk about. Bee pollen is one of the most complete foods. RNA, DNA, vitamins, minerals, proteins, everything that you need for energy. When I was a kid, another thing we used to see ads for, things have flipped 180 degrees right now, but they said if you were tired, you needed to take Geritol. You got iron poor blood. Any of you remember that? Any as old as me? All right. Now they're saying iron's bad for you. Oh well, they'll go back and forth. But what you have there is you've got yellow dock. Any herb that ends with dock has iron in it, by the way. Then licorice. Licorice is in this energy V. Licorice supports your adrenal gland. It's one of the main foods to feed the adrenal gland, and your adrenal gland makes adrenaline. We talked about the cortisone, but adrenaline is what you get to get up, run, fight, and move. So this is something to feed the adrenal gland so that if it needs a little extra lift, the licorice will help with that. We talked about, well, we didn't. It's got kelp, but we did talk about the black walnut. And you had my little story about the test on that. But your kelp is an excellent source of iodine. Iodine feeds your thyroid. Thyroid builds your energy. Schizandra is another one of those few adaptogenic herbs. And the last one was called barley grass. When I was first in the business, one of our biggest competitors was a company called Barley Green. It was a product that was a miracle product. It was supposed to do absolutely everything for everyone. Well, it's good. It's sort of like wheatgrass. But it's in the Energy V formula. All right, enough of that. Number 6 is called HS. That stands for heart support. We talked about Hawthorne. Remember, we talked about William Shakespeare. I did forget to mention, on another trip I was over in Germany, I was in a German herbal pharmacy and museum, and one of the things, I couldn't read it, it was all in German, but I had an interpreter because I could see what looked like a hawthorn tree there on the page, and they reassured me that it was, and everything in that manual medical museum dealing with hawthorn dealt with the heart. Verified what William Shakespeare said in another part of the country. Number 7 is HV&P. That stands for hops, valerian, and passion flower.
HVP.
HVP. Now that is not what they call it now. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. That's in my notes that way. Got to correct that one. It is now called Herbal Sleep because it tells you more about what it does. The next one, Herbal Sleep. Sorry to get you all confused there. The next one, it used to be called, don't write it down, K. It's now called Kidney Activator. If you would like to the far right, you can cheat a little bit and write in Herbal Diuretic. But unlike most diuretics on the market today, this one is loaded with potassium. If you go on a diuretic from the medical people, they say you better take extra potassium. You take the herbal one, potassium is right there.
But they say potassium is bad for the kidneys.
It's not. Too much is, and this is where you run into the problem. Almost everything, like we used the example in the beginning of water, too much is always bad, or too little is always bad, but you have to have potassium for the kidney. It's potassium that works with the sodium-potassium pump that moves everything back and forth. That's where a little knowledge or not having all the facts can be dangerous. Number 9 is LBS. That stands for a lower bowel stimulant. On the far right, you might want to write down herbal laxative. Now, it's not a laxative. We started off with that, but it works like a laxative. It gets your bowels working. And number 10 is ALJ. That stands for allergies and lungs, all kinds of problems there. The J stands for Jeannie Burgess, a very close personal friend. She lived up in Washington State, and her family had terrible problems with colitis and asthma and all of these things. And so she put together several formulas. And so the letter J just shows she's the herbalist that put it together. It's one of our biggest selling products now.
My favorite.
Your favorite. Thank you, Manny. And you like it, yeah. Great.
Yep,
And our last one is SF. That one, somebody said earlier, stands for Skinny Formula. It's been around for about 41 years. It's still one of our top selling products. It's very, very inexpensive. And if something has been around that long and we have maybe a dozen or more weight loss programs, it has to be pretty good. And that's all I'll say on that. So you've been through the herbal hour. I've got approximately 30 seconds. I like to start and end on time. We did that. And I will also mention that if there are any herbs that you want, I've got them here. If you'd like to have an herbal hour in your home, if you get 10 or more people or business, I'll come and do it for you. And this whole herbal hour tonight, as long as it's still working over there, has been copied. We will put it on YouTube, and somebody else said they may even make a movie out of it. And so you will have that at your fingertips eventually. So basically, yep, go right ahead. I am done. All right, thank you. Let me just shut this camera off and then